Well, we're in a I think a topping process here that could go either way. We've been saying, and you probably have this chart, megaphone pattern. Every bull market and bubble we've had bubble after bubble in stocks and commodities and everything, even real estate. But the first peak was 2000, the tech bubble, and then a big crash, and then a higher high in 2007, and then a bigger crash. And now we've got an even higher high, and that's the megaphone pattern. Each bubble takes us to new highs, but each crash afterwards takes us to even lower lows. So we've been predicting for the last year that the Dow would peak around 17,200 to 300. It actually hit 17,350 in September. And then the next crash over a couple of years would take us probably around late 2016, give or take, to around 5,800 to 6,000 on the Dow. That's a 65% crash, and that wouldn't be the bottom, but that would be similar to the worst crash we saw in the 1970s extended bear market when the last generation peaked in spending in 73 and 74. So we're looking for a big crash. My only question is, we told people, look, sell at 17,200 to 300. The upside on this megaphone pattern is very, very limited, and the downside is very strong, and you never know if there's going to be bad news about Ebola or Germany or China bubble bursting, all things we've been predicting would happen, and there's many other things. So the downside is much stronger. Now, what we had is two things. We had a key trend that would say, look, if we peaked over 17,000 in Dow and then broke below 16,500, that's a sign that the momentum's over. Well, we did that, but then the market turned around with the bulls jumping back in, and now it's gone back up, and we had what's called a confirmation rally just a couple days ago that said, there's a chance we may make a slight new high. So I'd say it's about 50-50 that we made a top in September, or 50% chance that we'll see a top, but only slightly higher. I would estimate Dow 17,500 at the highest. So there's not much upside, and there's a whole lot of downside. This megaphone pattern was the same thing that happened when the last generation peaked between 1965 and 68, and then stimulus to follow. You saw a peak in 65, a crash, a peak in 68, higher, a bigger crash, and then the biggest crash came after the peak in late 72 into late 74 crash. So this megaphone pattern, very powerful. Economists are ignoring it because they're in denial about the bubble. All they do is say, there is no bubble because of this. There is no bubble. Janet Yellen says there's no bubble. Mario Draghi.
But then meanwhile, people like Donald Trump and John Williams of Shadow Stats and so many others are joining you saying, get out. This is going to be really big. But let's look at the megaphone chart for TV viewers. I'll describe it for radio listeners. And it shows history up until now. The chart that's just computer generated basically shows by 2015, the big drop begins, and then it spikes back up in 2016 for a little bit, but still overall down from the high. And then it really goes down in 2017, back up a little bit into 2019. And then are you saying it bottoms out by 2023?
Yeah, actually, I think early 2020 is my best estimate. The reason, Alex, is we've got demographic cycles, what we're known for. It's just a 46-year lag on the birth index for the peak in spending of the average person, a scientifically documentable fact and a projectable trend. And
sure, and the elites know that. They look at populations and trends and where they're going to invest next. So let me ask you this then. In the past, though, they didn't have this much market rigging, this much flash trading. They didn't have this high tech of derivatives. They just had old-fashioned counterfeiting and they had old-fashioned fractional reserve banking. With all the new manipulations they've got and automation and new technologies and more scientific mumbo-jumbo in the systems, is there a way that they can flim-flam out of this and break the 6,000-year-old trends?
Well, they already have, Alex. This boom on technologies, the internet peaking back in like 2007, 8, demographic trends, as we predicted 20 years ago, the baby boom would peak by late 2007, and they did. Housing would decline. They did. Autos are going to start to decline next year. They come late on the cycle. We predicted all this stuff, but the government has kept the economy going. Not as good as before, but kept it going. And the stock market's gone to new highs because they're throwing trillions of dollars in the economy, and it's not being lent because everybody overborrowed. Businesses and consumers already over in debt, over in capacity, too big a home. So the money's just going into speculation, and it's driving the markets up. and companies are buying back their stock and doing all this artificial stuff that you can only do when interest rates are zero short term, and when adjusted for inflation, about 2% on average, zero long term. You set interest rates at zero, you're going to get massive speculation.
Exactly. So what do you expect to happen with the QE? Will they dial it back or shut it off completely? And why is Germany the only major group we see complaining about QE Unlimited?
Well, Germany's the only country that's gone through a hyperinflation in the last century, and so they know the ravages of inflation, and they're the only ones objecting. Everybody else is just like, well, cover it over, give us a free lunch. I mean, that's what everybody's doing. I think, the Fed, I've been saying for the last year, the Fed is tapering, and now they're going back to zero, supposedly this month. They're tapering right at the wrong time. I don't like QE in the first place. It's artificial. It distorts the markets. It kills free market capitalism and the whole innovation process that needs booms and busts and inflation and deflation and all the things they try to prevent. But they're tapering just as the second wave of demographic decline hits the United States. Homer Simpson peaked in 2007 at age 46. The wealthiest people, the top 20% in our society, they're still highly employed, college educated, benefiting from this bubble because they own most of the financial assets. They're due to peak late this year, right about now, and fall off the spending cliff just like Homer Simpson did. The Fed doesn't understand demographics. They just think, well, the economy's doing better. And so we can now taper off and not look like a bunch of idiots and act like we got to stimulate the economy forever, because that's a sign that it's weak. To have to stimulate it for 6 years just to get 2% growth on average when our normal growth rates are 3 to 4%, it shows how weak the economy is. To have this low inflation with this much money printing shows how strong deflationary trends are.
I agree, and we've been seeing that. We've been seeing that happen now. Some deflationary evidence. I want to get into that when we come back with Harry Dent. HarryDent.com/Alex Jones. Find a new free chapter of his best-selling book, and we got your calls coming up, Phil and others.
This hour brought to you by InfidelBodyArmor.com. When it hits the fan, don't be left without the body armor that will save your life. With prices starting at just $374.99 and ships free. Get yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Just won't quit.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. SilverLungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at SilverLungs.com. That's SilverLungs.com.
The experts are clear. Sunlight, purified water, healthy non-GMO food, and having a good attitude is essential to a healthy immune system. But I go further with Super Nascent Iodine X2 from InfoWarsLife.com. 50% stronger than our original and revolutionary Nascent Iodine formula, coming from a deep earth crystal source that no other supplier has. Most other forms of iodine come from seaweed in areas plagued by Fukushima and other contaminants. Not our iodine. It comes from over 200 million-year-old crystal salt deposits and is tested and proven to be completely pure. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today. See the informational videos. Read the information they're compiled. And for a limited time, when you use promo code NOW at checkout, you get an additional 5% off the entire family of InfoWarsLife.com products. Secure your Survival Shield X2 today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, listen carefully. Sweeping changes to IRS policies will help more people than ever eliminate their tax debts once and for all. And now, I can help you reduce or eliminate your tax debts and end your tax nightmare. Hi, I'm Dan Pilla. I've helped thousands of people reduce and eliminate tax debts they couldn't pay. And after more than 30 years of experience dealing with the IRS, I can tell you there's no such thing as a hopeless tax case. And with the IRS's new policies, it's easier than ever to put your tax debt behind you once and for all. Call now at 800-346-6829 to learn how I can help you. You know your IRS debt will not go away by itself, but you don't have to live in fear anymore. Call 800-346-6829. Learn how I can help you eliminate wage and bank levies, release tax liens, and negotiate a settlement with the IRS that will put your tax nightmare behind you forever. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to taxhelponline.com. That's taxhelponline.com.
Here's what we know.
If you leave me,
we live in a very rigged economy.
I won't miss you.
There were mainstream news articles on Monday I saw admitting that the NSA is being used to give key intel to select global corporations, a lot of them not even U.S., to corner markets. We don't want to live in this rigged system where we pay for this big panopticonic spy grid and then a bunch of inside interests basically fix the economy. There's always been fixes and problems. And that's what turns you into a third world nation. Now they're scapegoating the free market for this crony system they built, where they buy out the public for some chicken feed welfare, and then they have all this corporate welfare, and then they're always out trying to extinguish any real free market corporations or companies or individuals, as if the very idea of free market threatens their rule and hegemony. They want to kill the golden goose. That's my view on it. Harry Dent, best-selling author, researcher, former top analyst, and, well, you got us up a lot of their operations with Bain Capital, joins us about 15, 20 minutes the next hour. Then I'm going to go to medical doctors and others calling in with their take on Ebola and the bombshell news we broke in the last hour that there are people that clearly have Ebola in hospitals and the feds are whisking them away. This is just wild. And I've talked personally not just to this medical doctor on record on air, but another one I know in a major city in Texas that said it is going on, and is very freaked out. Mr. Dent, getting back into what we're seeing on a depressionary level with all this inflationary garbage paper on top of it, why there's that paradox, and then your take on my view that they're scapegoating capitalism for the rack and ruin that the departure from capitalism is causing.
Well, you know, Alex, free market capitalism always goes to extremes, but it rebalances itself, just like the body. The body gets out of balance. It knows how to rebalance itself, especially if you eat the right foods and feed it right and stuff. The government started this. It started with Greenspan after the '87 crash. He said, oh my gosh, we can't have a crash like this. So he pushes interest rates down. And then, you know, the S&L crisis again, and then long-term capital management, a big hedge fund fails. They've been pushing down interest rates, short-term and long-term, manipulating the economy. They don't trust the free market capitalist system. And if you don't let it work, you don't get the innovation. The innovation comes from the extremes of boom and bust, inflation and deflation. We need those dynamic opposites. They're trying to turn this darn thing into a machine. It's not a machine. It's an organic process just like our body. So they are killing the golden goose. We just had David Stockman at our major conference. He said the same thing. He calls it the corruption of capitalism in America. So that's what they're doing, and they're blaming the free markets when things goes wrong. They've been rigging this since 1987.
With the President's Committee on Open Markets, the Plunge Protection Team, and many other systems, this is a rigged game. My issue with it being rigged is not that it just kills innovation. It allows select groups to capitalize on it at the expense of other real entrepreneurs and risk takers.
No, that's right. There's no question about it. And by the Fed keeping this bubble going, even when it burst in 2008, all they're doing is favoring all those special interests on Wall Street. I mean, I want to see some major financial institutions and investment funds go down because they deserve to. I want to see banks go down that made horrible loans. In the free market system, the way we learn and grow is there's consequences when you do something wrong. That's how you learn. And people don't realize, even in human life, not just in our economy, we learn and grow and evolve the most when we learn from our mistakes, not just when we're unsuccessful.
We learn during crises.
Exactly. The greatest innovations, the greatest leaders have always, and I mean always, come through crises like the 1930s and World War II, or like the 1970s inflation era.
Harry Dent is our guest right now. HarryDent.com/Alex Jones to find the free chapter of his book on the China crisis. I want to talk about that. Chapter 10, the China disaster ahead. Huge ticking time bomb, and we'll break down how that affects us here. And then your calls are coming up. on the Ebola situation. Stay with us, third hour.
This is GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
From the water.